We're very excited about our next guest, journalist, writer, and podcast host, Malcolm Gladwell. He is the author of 6 New York Times bestsellers, including Outliers, The Tipping Point, and David and Goliath. And now, Gladwell is launching the 7th season of his podcast series, Revisionist History. The show explores events and ideas from the past that have been overlooked or misunderstood. It has been downloaded more than 162 million times since 2019. 162 million times. Malcolm Gladwell joins us now, first on CBS Mornings. Welcome.
Yes.
Glad to be back.
Good to see you again. So let's talk about this new season. It's all about experiments. And you came up with an idea after finding a box from World War II. What did that box reveal to you?
It's this crazy experiment that's sort of been overlooked. During the Second World War, there was a researcher in Minnesota who was really curious to find out what's the best way to nurse someone back to health after they've been malnourished. Because obviously, during the war, all kinds of people were suffering from starvation. So he convinced 36 men to come to Minnesota. He put them underneath the football stadium at the University of Minnesota, and for 6 months, he starved them. And he observed what they went through, and then he brought them back to health for 3 months after that. And the men left these testimonies, 18 of them, these taped interviews, and they were sitting in the Library of Congress. No one listened to them, I don't think, ever. And we discovered, and they were the basis for this. We have a 3-part series about what these guys went through over the course of that 6 months.
Physically and mentally.
Physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, how it changed their lives, how they viewed it. They were all conscientious objectors, and this was their service during the war. It's an incredibly moving story.
Talking about moving stories, because Malcolm, you talk to your family, you talk to your mom, you talk to your brother. I love your tagline of your podcast, focusing on the overlooked and the misunderstood. So I thought, what's overlooked and misunderstood about his family? But the thing is, the point you're making is the habits of kindness are contagious.
Yeah.
It really applies to your family. And that if we're ever on a desert island and we have a choice between Malcolm or his brother Jeffrey, pick Jeffrey.
I do a little thing about my brother.
Yes.
This is another episode where I talk about my family back in the 70s. Sponsored 3 Vietnamese refugees, along with a group of their friends. And I tell that story and sort of dig into it and why they did it and what it meant. Mostly it was, I've been trying for 7 seasons to get my mom on my podcast, and I finally succeeded.
Was it weird interviewing her, talking to her?
No, my mom is one of those very self-possessed West Indian ladies who has this beautiful low voice. I just thought, she's made for this. Yeah. This is like
But you talk about how your family took in the refugees, and that was sort of core to who you guys were.
Yeah. And Canada's very unique in that way.
The story is really about why does Canada take in so many more refugees than any other country in the world, and why doesn't the rest of the world follow Canada's lead? As a Canadian, I'm always happy to bang the drum for my home country.
Now, Malcolm, first let me say, I don't appreciate you stealing the shine of best hair of the day. I'm supposed to have that title on a daily basis.
Well,
you look great.
It's just the 3 of us who are in company.
That's right, yeah.
Sorry, Vlad.
Wah, wah.
It's not funny to you, but it is funny. Now, I want to talk about the first episode, which is the Magic Wand Experiment. What is that exactly?
So I had this idea that every scientists in the world must have in the back of their head the experiment they would love to do but never could.
Okay.
Right? So I called them up and I said, all right, imagine if I gave you a magic wand and you could wave away all financial, logistical, ethical, laws of nature constraints. Yeah. Do the experiment. Tell me what that magical experiment would be. And it turns out every single person I talked to said, oh, of course I have one. And they told me, I collected them all. And some of them were wild. My favorite one was, well, I won't say that my favorite one. That's too complicated. Not right for television. But one of them was.
It's babies without penises.
I'm not Gayle. You said it, not me.
But I heard it. But you also said, with all your humility, you said, and I have the best magic wand.
I did.
That's you said.
I have 2 episodes on this, and the second one is where I give my magic wand.
What is it?
Well, I'll only say this. It involves salt.
Okay.
And it involves the city of Akron, Ohio.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Akron figures huge in this. I don't know if anyone's from Akron.
That's a good tease.
That is.
You also have one about Will and Grace that you said is the most important sitcom
in
history. Says Malcolm Gladwell.
I have
in 30 seconds or less, why?
I have an entire... It's all about... Will and Grace was the last sitcom that had a meaningful effect on the way Americans thought about a consequential issue. It changed American minds about gay marriage. It is impossible for a television show to do that today, and I explain why. We owe Will and Grace a great... This is Gay Pride Month, right?
Yes.
We owe Will and Grace an enormous vote of thanks, and I had a hilarious interview with the two guys who started that show. It's fantastic.
Your podcast is so good, Malcolm.
It is so wonderful.
You make things that aren't necessarily interesting, no offense, very interesting.
Yes.
It's the way you tell the story, it's your voice, it's so good.
Everything.
Bravo.
I guess you could say you're an outlier.
Yeah. Always great to have you, Malcolm Gladwell. Thank you very much.